Hey, what's up, guys? This is CG with Politics Mob, and this is Mob Monday for March 12th through the 18th, 2018. Let's get into it.
Ask what you can do for your country.
And always will be the United States of America.
We're going to build the wall.
Tear down this wall.
All right, first things first, I want to apologize for last week's Mob Monday because I said this. One thing I want to start doing every Monday, every Mob Monday, is making a video that just kind of goes through the major events from the previous week as far as politics are concerned. Now that turned out not to be the case. There were three pretty big stories between the 10th and the 11th last week that I did not cover because when news broke, I thought that they were going to go away. I thought they end up being no big deal. But here we are a little bit more than a week later, and there's three stories that are still grabbing the headlines. So we're not going to start with Monday. We're actually going to start with last week, Saturday the 10th, and Sunday the 11th. This happened on the 11th.
Sleepy eyes Chuck Todd. He's a sleeping son of a bitch.
I mean, there's the President of the United States calling a well-respected journalist a son of a bitch. Speaks for itself. I'll just leave that one right there. Also, Betsy DeVos, our Secretary of Education, had this to say about failing schools.
Have you seen the really bad schools? Maybe try to figure out what they're doing?
I have not intentionally visited schools that are underperforming.
Maybe you should.
Maybe I should.
There's another one. I got nothing. But some news that I think went under the radar, which is probably a bigger deal than Donald Trump saying something stupid at a rally or Betsy DeVos not knowing what she's talking about, two things that are par from the course at this point in time, is this news from Steve Bannon, who was speaking in France at a conference, an event of sorts for French nationalists.
Let them call you racist.
Laissez-vous appeler raciste.
Let them call you xenophobes.
Mais laissez-vous appeler xénophobes.
Let them call you nativist.
Laissez-vous les appeler nativistes.
Wear it as a badge of honor.
Portez-le comme un badge d'honneur.
All right, that's a huge deal. And you know what? You can dismiss it. You can say he's in France. You can say Steve Bannon's no longer part of the White House. But I think the reason why we have to pay attention to comments like this is not necessarily because of what's being said, but when it's being said, right? It's 2018. There's still people with this prevailing idea that it's okay to be completely isolationist, especially in terms of race and society. If you want to be isolationist with your economic policies, you know, very libertarian in that way, good for you. But to be isolationist and standoffish and maybe even a little bit segregationist about your policies when it comes to race and social politics is pretty outdated. So, I mean, shame on Steve Bannon for that, but again, it's also Steve Bannon, so who cares? All right, now actually jumping into the news from Monday, March 12th. Donald Trump started the morning by firing his Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson. Apparently, Rex Tillerson found out via tweet. Apparently, he did know that it might be coming down the pipeline, but he wasn't positive. And he found out via Twitter that he was no longer Secretary of State for the United States. And this just adds to the list of Gary Cohn and some of these other people that have been leaving the White House, whether intentionally or being fired in the last couple of weeks. This is the third major departure in 2 weeks. Now, something else on Monday that I think might have gone under the radar, maybe you missed it. If you heard about Rex Tillerson, you probably did not hear about Donald Trump's assistant. All right, so there was another big firing at the White House on Monday, and Trump let go his personal assistant, John McEntee. This is not as big of a deal as Rex Tillerson. Obviously, the position's not as high. But there is one thing to note here. The reason why he is fired is because he was currently under investigation by the Secret Service for serious financial crimes. Obviously, this is something the president does not want very close to him at the moment, so he let him go. However, don't get it twisted, he's still going to be keeping him around. McEntee has already joined the Trump re-election campaign. So he's already gearing up to help prepare Donald Trump to get re-elected in 2020. So not good enough, little unsavory to be too close to the White House, but just on target to be in charge or help. At least in charge is a little strong. At least help with the re-election campaign for Donald Trump in a couple years. So there was that. So on Tuesday, the House of Representatives, specifically the House of Representatives Intelligence Committee, suspended its investigation to look into Donald Trump and the Russia probe, the Russia connection, what have you, all that stuff that you've heard too much about at this point. So there were three main investigations: the Senate investigation, the House investigation, and the main investigation by Special Counsel Robert Mueller. The Robert Mueller investigation is still ongoing. The Senate Intelligence Committee investigation is still ongoing. The House decided to stop their investigation on Tuesday. This is not surprising at all, considering that that committee is run by Devin Nunes. I've made my position and opinion on Devin Nunes very clear in another video. I'll link that down below in the description. But to sum up, I think he's full of shit. All right, moving on to Wednesday. This has absolutely nothing to do with politics actually, but world-renowned theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking passed away at the age of 76. Obviously, his contributions to not just the scientific community, but the human community overall has been very substantial, and he will be missed. But something else crazy happened on Wednesday. I'm talking about James Bond, Mission Impossible, insert spy movie here, level of crazy. A foreign Russian spy currently living in the UK and his daughter were victims of an assassination attempt. They were poisoned. Now, as of recording this video, Monday, March 19th, 2018, both this spy and his daughter are currently alive and in critical condition. On Wednesday, the UK announced that it will be expelling 23 Russian diplomats. All of this is in response to the alleged poisoning of an ex-spy named Sergei Skripal and his daughter, Yulia. Now, the Kremlin, specifically this guy, say that Russian involvement in such an incident is unimaginable and that the UK needs to apologize or they need to prove Russian involvement. I think that Vladimir Putin knows what he's doing here. He knows damn well he's not going to get an apology, but he also knows damn well that he's probably not going to get any concrete proof, because doing so would reveal how the United Kingdom and their government came across this intelligence in the first place, which they won't be willing to do. So he's playing chess here. He knows that the UK can't come out and say, for a fact, this is what we know and this is how we know it. So he's saying, look, if you can't do that, then apologize to me because I didn't do anything. Which is just Vladimir Putin being Vladimir Putin. And last but not least, the news that you no doubt heard about from Wednesday was the student protests / walkouts over gun control and gun violence. An estimated over 1 million students participated in the protests and walked out of over 3,000 schools across the country. So here's what I want to say about the protests. I think it's great. And I don't think it's great necessarily because of what's being advocated. I think it's great because something is being advocated, right? That's what politics, specifically freedom of speech and freedom, is all about. The freedom to express yourself, the freedom to speak your mind without retribution from the government. And that's what happened on Wednesday. 3,000 schools saw 1 million students walk out and say, you know what, here's something that we don't like. And I love that. I love that. Now, you can pick apart the politics as much as you want about whether or not you agree with what they were protesting, but the fact that they were protesting, and largely there were some incidents of students being punished and or threatened to not participate, but largely the students were allowed to participate and they did so willingly, and I think they're patriots. And honestly, I think the very controversial spokesperson of the NRA agrees with me on this.
Well, it's good to see you all this morning. I'm always supportive of people going out and expressing their First Amendment right. Look, I don't want to make apologies for my Second Amendment right, so I don't expect people to make apologies for their First Amendment right.
And while no one was looking, the Senate passed a measure to repeal some of the Dodd-Frank legislation. If you're not familiar, back in 2010, the Dodd-Frank bill was passed directly in response to the Great Recession of 2008 and 2009. That was where we had all those, credit default swap mortgages. Everybody started losing money. Banks were too big to fail, all that nonsense, right? So one of the measures of the Dodd-Frank bill was just picked apart by the Senate. So the thing you want to focus on here is the Volcker Rule. And what the Volcker Rule that was part of Dodd-Frank did was prohibit a lot of banks from being able to make risky bets with taxpayer money, specifically taxpayer-funded insurance money. The Volcker Rule stopped banks from being able to take that taxpayer-funded insurance money and make risky bets with it, gamble with it, like they were doing before that caused the Great Recession. That rule, at least according to the Senate's approval, is now gone. So that bill is going to go to the House. And if it passes the House, it won't exist anymore. And we will be back in a situation where banks will be allowed to be too big to fail. They'll be allowed to gamble with taxpayers' money. And they'll be allowed to do it without any fear of retribution or punishment. Basically what I'm saying is, it's been 10 years. Nobody gives a shit about what happened 10 years ago because Americans in general, myself included, have short-term memories. So, welcome back to no regulation and banks being able to do whatever the hell they want to do. Great. In other news from Thursday, some more shakeups in the White House. You will remember last week that I explained that Gary Cohn, the former economic advisor to the president, had stepped down. He had resigned because he did not agree with the tariffs that Trump had proposed. He has now been replaced, at least proposed, by Larry Kudlow of CNBC fame. So if you ever watch CNBC like I do from time to time, It's not very exciting unless you're super into financial markets and stuff like that. He's one of their anchors and regular contributors, and he's on there talking about money and finance all the time. Seems to know what he's talking about, seems to know what he's doing. He has years and years and years and years of experience. So I like the pick. Some people don't like Larry's politics. I don't particularly care. I want someone that's going to give the President of the United States good economic advice. I think Larry Kudlow fits that profile, so I like it. And of course, there would not be a week in American politics the last year and a half without some Russian news and Russia updates. So let's just go ahead and break those down. On Friday, Robert Mueller, the special counsel and the lead investigator, issued some subpoenas specifically to the Trump organization. So he is requesting some documents, unknown in nature, but he's requesting specifically some documents from the Trump organization related to his investigation. So we will have to see where that goes. But, and what I think is the best Russian news, at least to my mind so far, is that Trump issued some pretty strict sanctions against the Russian government and made it official. He made it official. We are now acknowledging the fact that the Russian government targeted the United States of America, specifically US infrastructure, with hackers, and they are being sanctioned by us for it. I think it's a good look. The president had this to say about it.
It certainly looks like the Russians were behind it, something that should never ever happen, and we're taking it very seriously.
Now, to be fair, I wish his rhetoric would have matched up to this point last year or even earlier this year when he was still saying stuff like this.
The Russia story is a total fabrication.
But either way, it's a step in the right direction, so good for him and good for us. But we know better than that. There cannot be any sort of Russia news without a little bit of Russia scandal. So on Friday, we also learned that Deputy Director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, was fired. Now, the official reason for his firing was that he lacked candor. So if you don't happen to have your thesaurus handy like I never do, candor refers to openness and honesty. But if you're a Divergent fan like my girlfriend, you probably got it right away. Like, I know that. I know what candor means. It's one of the factions. Whatever.
Candor value honesty and order. They tell the truth.
All right, unlike the last video, I will not pretend like no news happened over the weekend. We had a little bit of news. Donald Trump attacked Robert Mueller by name this time. He actually named him in a tweet. I mean, it's pretty typical. I don't really have anything else to say about that. But on Sunday, Vladimir Putin, my favorite, was re-elected as the president of Russia. So he gets 6 more years, and he got 76% of the vote. So, I mean, I'm sure it was open and fair, and the election was just, you know, very honest. All right, guys, that is it for today's video. Thank you for watching Mob Monday. Be sure to come back next Monday for updates of whatever happened the previous week. If you are on Facebook and or YouTube, please, please, please give me a thumbs up. That really helps the channel out, and also guys, the discussion lets me know what you guys like and what you don't like so I can put out content that you actually want to see. If you're specifically on Facebook, please head over to the Politics Mob Facebook page, link in the description, and give it a like and a follow. If you are on YouTube, head over to the channel, hit the subscribe button, make sure your notifications are turned on so you get notified every time there's a new video. As always, I'm CG. This is Politics Mob. Learn, think for yourself, rise up, and create change, whatever that change means to you.